Liam never believed in destiny. He was a simple engineer working in an old repair shop on the edge of New London. Life was slow, peaceful, and filled with sarcastic humor. He loved watching the galaxy news and laughing at every strange thing aliens did. But nothing could prepare him for the announcement that would turn his life upside down. That morning, the broadcast cut through every channel. A calm alien voice echoed across the screens. "Attention, citizens of Earth. The Galactic Union announces the beginning of the Alien Marriage Draft, a new interspecies alliance program." People all over the planet froze. The news anchors repeated the words again and again. Marriage draft. Aliens. Humans. At first, everyone thought it was a prank or political stunt. Some laughed, some cursed, others started making memes within minutes. But Liam went further. He made a short video mocking the idea, pretending to hold a bouquet and saying, "Maybe I'll get lucky and marry a glowing space queen." His friends laughed so hard that the clip went viral overnight. He had no idea that his joke was about to be taken literally. By evening, strange signals appeared in the sky. Blue lights crossed the clouds like ribbons of lightning. Governments claimed it was communication from alien fleets, but no one really believed it. Liam just sat in his room scrolling through comments, laughing at his own fame. Someone had even edited his face onto an alien wedding poster. He typed a funny reply. "Sure, I accept the proposal," and pressed send. The moment he did, his phone flickered. The lights dimmed. For a second, everything went silent. Then a soft blue glow appeared on his hand. It looked like a small tattoo, circular, with lines forming an unknown symbol. He rubbed it, but it didn't fade. A cold feeling crawled up his arm. He whispered, "Weird," and went to bed, thinking it was just some filter glitch or prank. The next morning, Liam woke to a strange humming sound outside. The air felt heavy, charged. His small house shook slightly, as if thunder had rolled just above the roof. When he stepped outside, he froze. In the distance, hovering above the field, was a giant silver craft, silent and massive. People gathered, filming on their devices. The craft opened from the center, releasing a beam of soft blue light. Figures stepped out, tall, elegant, and not human. Their armor shimmered like liquid glass, their eyes glowing faintly gold. They walked straight toward him, ignoring the terrified crowd. One of them spoke in a calm mechanical voice. "Liam Carter of Earth, you have been chosen by the House of Varela." The crowd gasped. Someone screamed. Liam laughed nervously. "Nice cosplay, guys." But then one of them raised a holographic screen showing his viral video, and the glowing mark on his hand. The same symbol appeared on their display, pulsing in sync. Before he could react, two of the aliens touched their devices. A field of blue energy surrounded him, lifting him gently off the ground. He shouted, "Hey, wait, I didn't sign up for this." But the beam was already pulling him toward the ship. The crowd shouts faded behind him as the silver gates closed. His heart pounded, fear replacing every joke he ever made. He saw the earth shrinking below him through the ship's transparent floor. And that was the moment it hit him. This was no dream. Inside the ship, the air smelled metallic, clean, and cold. The aliens didn't speak much, but one of them handed him a small device that projected his face with the same glowing mark. It read, "Selected by Royal Decree, Varela Dominion." He sat quietly, staring at the lights dancing across the ship's walls. He wanted to scream, but he couldn't. He just whispered to himself, "I laughed at the marriage draft, and now I'm the punchline." As the ship crossed into deep space, a voice echoed through the intercom. "Prepare the chosen one for presentation." He didn't understand what that meant, but the alien beside him looked at him almost with pity. "Your life will never be the same, human," she said softly. And then, for the first time, Liam wished he had never laughed. The journey through space felt endless. Liam sat inside a chamber of soft blue light, watching stars stretch like rivers outside the glass walls. The alien vessel moved silently, faster than anything he could imagine. Every vibration hummed through his bones, reminding him that he was far, far from Earth. He tried speaking to the guards, but they never answered. Their faces were calm, unreadable, almost carved from silver. Each of them wore a glowing crest on their chest, the same symbol that had burned onto his hand. Every time he looked at it, he felt a strange pull in his chest, a connection he couldn't explain. Finally, the ship slowed. Outside, a massive planet filled the view, covered in violet oceans and emerald clouds. Dozens of cities floated above the surface, surrounded by rings of energy. The alien beside him said one word, Varela, and the name itself carried power. It was her home world, the center of the Varela Dominion, and now, his destination. As the ship entered the planet's orbit, hundreds of other vessels circled in perfect formation. A signal echoed through the halls, and the soldiers stood at attention. When the gates opened, Liam's breath caught. Beyond the ramp was a grand courtyard shining like crystal, filled with alien banners, glowing runes, and soldiers lined in endless rows. They were waiting for someone important, him. He stumbled forward, guided by two tall guards, his heart racing. Every alien he passed stared at him with curiosity or disgust. He could hear whispers, the sound of their language like music mixed with thunder. Some pointed at him, others laughed quietly. He was just a human, a joke in their grand empire. At the end of the hall stood a tall figure draped in royal armor. Her hair shimmered like strands of light, her eyes cold as stars. This was Arya Varela, the general's only daughter. Liam recognized her instantly from the broadcast posters back on Earth. She was famous across the galaxy, warrior, tactician, heir to her father's command. But now, by some cosmic error, she was his chosen mate. Arya stepped closer, studying him as if he were an insect trapped in glass. Her voice was soft but sharp. So, this is the human who mocked our traditions. Liam tried to smile nervously. Yeah, about that, it was a joke. Her expression didn't change. Our laws are not jokes, she said, and our bonds are sacred. She circled him slowly, her footsteps echoing through the hall. The mark chose you, she said, and once marked, the bond cannot be undone. He wanted to protest, to beg, to run, but the soldiers around him stood motionless. He realized that he was no longer a man. He was a symbol, a token of peace between two worlds that never trusted each other. Arya turned away and said coldly, "Prepare him for the trials of acceptance." Liam blinked. Trials? Wait, what trials? But no one answered. He was taken through long corridors filled with glowing crystals and whispering light. Every door opened automatically as they passed, revealing rooms of alien beauty, floating gardens, silent pools, energy runes humming softly in the air. Yet, despite the beauty, everything felt like a prison. He was an outsider, a human among gods. When they finally stopped, he stood inside a chamber surrounded by holographic symbols. A female attendant placed her hand on his shoulder and said gently, "The trials will decide if you are worthy to stand beside Our Lady." He swallowed hard, trying to sound brave. "And if I fail?" Her golden eyes dimmed slightly. "Then your mark will fade, and so will your life." Silence filled the chamber. He could feel the hum of the walls, the pulse of the mark on his hand. The realization hit him like a shockwave. This wasn't just a ceremony, it was survival. He had laughed at a cosmic law, and now the universe was laughing back. Somewhere deep inside, fear mixed with determination. He whispered to himself, "No more jokes, Liam." The door ahead opened, revealing a vast arena bathed in blue light. Thousands of alien eyes waited, watching their new human contestant. And above them, in the royal balcony, Arya Varela stood, her expression unreadable. She raised her hand, and the voice of the announcer echoed through the air. "Let the trials begin." Liam took a deep breath, his heart pounding. He had no armor, no weapons, no plan. But he had one thing none of them understood, the will of humanity. And as the first challenge rose from the floor, he muttered under his breath, "I'm not dying for a joke." The arena shimmered like a storm of light. Liam stood at the center, surrounded by alien warriors twice his size. Their skin glowed faintly, their armor pulsing with strange energy. He could hear the low hum of the crowd, thousands of alien eyes fixed on the fragile human who dared stand before them. Above, in the royal balcony, Arya Varela watched silently. Her golden eyes reflected no emotion, only cold discipline. To her, this was tradition, a test to break the weak and honor the strong. But when she looked at Liam, something inside her twisted with confusion. Why would fate choose this soft, awkward creature to be bound to her bloodline? The announcer's voice echoed across the arena. First trial, endurance. The ground opened, releasing waves of searing heat. Metallic plates beneath Liam's feet began to glow red. The other warriors activated their armor's shields, but Liam had nothing. He clenched his fists, breathing through the pain, refusing to fall. The aliens laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "Pathetic human," one hissed. But Liam remembered his father's words from long ago, "Don't quit until the last breath." He focused on staying upright, step by step, until the heat faded. When it ended, silence fell over the crowd. He had survived, burned and shaking, but still standing. Arya's lips parted slightly in surprise. Few aliens could endure that test without training. She leaned forward, whispering to her advisor, "Run the next phase." Her tone hid the smallest trace of curiosity. The second trial began, the test of reflex. Dozens of glowing spheres appeared, darting around the arena at lightning speed. Liam's task was to touch the light before it vanished. Simple, yet impossible for human reflexes. He tried once, twice, missing each time, the crowd jeering louder. But then he closed his eyes, remembering how he used to fix machines by sound alone. He listened, the hum, the pattern, the rhythm. At the next flash, his hand shot forward, catching the light sphere midair. The arena gasped as the sphere stabilized in his palm. He smiled faintly. "Guess humans can learn fast." Arya's eyes widened, a flicker of admiration breaking through her calm mask. For the first time, she saw more than weakness. She saw will. Still, she refused to show it. "Proceed to the final test," she commanded, her voice steady as iron. The final challenge was combat. A massive alien warrior stepped forward, his armor glowing crimson. He carried a blade longer than Liam's body. Liam was given a simple staff, smooth, metallic, and weightless. When the horn sounded, the alien charged like a beast. Liam rolled aside, barely dodging the strike that cracked the floor. He used his smaller size to move faster, hitting pressure points instead of attacking head-on. Each time he fell, he rose again, breathless but determined. The crowd's laughter slowly faded into stunned silence. The human refused to surrender. Finally, after endless blows, Liam dropped his staff, collapsing to his knees. Blood ran down his arm, his vision blurred. The alien raised his blade for the final strike. But before it could fall, a voice thundered, "Enough." Arya stood, her tone sharp and commanding. "The trials are over." The warrior stopped immediately, lowering his weapon. The arena lights dimmed as Arya descended the stairs. Her armor shimmered under the pale glow, each step echoing with authority. She stopped in front of Liam, who was too exhausted to move. "You should be dead," she said quietly, "yet you still stand." He forced a weak grin. "Guess your trials need an update." For a moment, her lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but not anger either. She turned to the crowd and declared, "The human has endured the trials of acceptance." Shock rippled through the audience. Some bowed their heads, others whispered in disbelief. As the guards approached to carry him away, Arya looked down one last time. "He will rest," she ordered. "Then he will learn our ways." Liam raised his head weakly and met her gaze. In that instant, something wordless passed between them. Not love, not respect, but the spark of possibility. As he was taken back to his chamber, he whispered under his breath, "She tried to break me, but maybe she woke something else." And far above the city, the stars of Varela burned brighter. The fate of two worlds had begun to change, one trial at a time. The next sunrise over Varela was unlike any Liam had seen. Twin suns rose together, painting the crystal towers in gold and violet light. He stood on the balcony of his chamber, watching the alien city awaken. Flying machines hummed through the sky like silver birds, and giant creatures moved across distant bridges. Everything was beautiful and terrifying. He was no longer on Earth, no longer free. He was the chosen human, the first outsider to survive the trials of acceptance. Guards escorted him to the training grounds at dawn. It was a wide arena surrounded by glowing pillars that pulsed with energy. Waiting for him was Arya, dressed not in royal armor, but in combat gear. Her presence made the soldiers stand taller, her aura sharp as a blade. "Your trials are over," she said, "but your worth is still unproven." Liam sighed. "So this is the part where you try to kill me again." Arya's eyes narrowed. "No, this is where I see what you're made of." The first test was the gravity gauntlet. The floor beneath him shimmered as the gravity around him increased tenfold. Every breath felt heavier, every movement slower. Liam dropped to one knee, gasping, but he refused to give up. Arya watched closely, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. He pushed against the invisible weight, step by step, until the system released him. When it ended, he collapsed, drenched in sweat but still conscious. Arya whispered softly, almost to herself, "He endures." Next came the mind sphere. A floating orb hovered before him, projecting waves of emotion directly into his mind. Fear, anger, grief, illusions so real they made him tremble. He saw Earth burning, his friends calling his name, his mother fading into darkness. He wanted to scream, to fall, to give up. But deep inside, he remembered why he always fixed machines even when they broke again and again, because giving up never fixed anything. He shouted, "Enough!" and the illusion shattered like glass. The aliens around him stared in disbelief. Very few, even among their own kind, could break the mind sphere by willpower alone. Arya's second-in-command leaned closer to her, whispering, "He shouldn't have survived that." Arya didn't reply, her gaze fixed on the humans standing under the shattered fragments of light. There was something raw, something human, that her world had forgotten. The last test was called the Trial of Bond. It wasn't physical, it was spiritual. Liam was placed in a chamber filled with glowing blue mist. Inside, the mark on his hand began to pulse in rhythm with another presence. He felt a heartbeat that wasn't his own, a consciousness brushing his thoughts. And then he heard a voice, her voice. Arya's, calm and distant, echoing through his mind. "Can you hear me, human?" He looked around, startled. "Arya?" "This is the bond," she said. "Our connection through the ancient rite. It links chosen pairs, but it only accepts those with truth in their hearts." He took a deep breath. "Then what do you see in me?" Silence followed. Then her voice softened. "Something I don't understand yet." The link flickered, and for a moment, she felt his memories, his laughter, his loneliness, his stubborn will. And he felt hers, the burden of duty, the fear of weakness, the shadow of her father's expectations. When the connection faded, both stood in silence, shaken. The guards reported the readings to the council. The bond had stabilized, something that was not supposed to happen between species. Later that evening, Arya approached him again. "You have passed every test," she said, "but I still do not know why the mark chose you." Liam smiled faintly. Maybe destiny has a sense of humor. For the first time, she almost smiled back. "You talk too much," she muttered, walking away. He laughed softly. "That's how humans survive." As night fell, Liam looked up at the alien sky, filled with twin moons. He knew more trials were coming, harder than before. But something had changed between him and Arya. No longer enemies, not yet allies. Something fragile had begun to grow. Respect, maybe, or the first spark of understanding. And in that quiet moment, he realized something deeper. He wasn't just fighting to survive anymore. He was fighting to prove that humanity could stand among the stars. Days turned into weeks. Liam trained under Arya's watchful eyes, learning the ways of Varella's warriors. He mastered their weapons, studied their language, and learned how their energy armor responded to thought instead of touch. He wasn't the strongest or the fastest, but he had something none of them expected: creativity. Humans improvised, and that confused the aliens more than any strength ever could. One morning, as he practiced in the courtyard, an explosion shook the sky. The city alarms blared, red lights flashing across the crystal towers. Soldiers ran in formation, voices sharp with command. Liam rushed toward the balcony, seeing distant smoke rising from the defense perimeter. Arya appeared beside him, her face grim. "The border's been breached," she said. "Our enemies have come sooner than expected." Liam frowned. "Enemies? I thought this marriage draft was supposed to stop wars." Arya's eyes darkened. That was the lie. She led him through a secret passage down into the war chambers. There, holograms of star systems floated in the air, dozens of fleets moving toward Varela. "The alliance is falling apart," she said. "Some houses refuse to accept humans as part of the bond." She looked at him. "You are the reason they march." The truth hit him like a blow. His selection wasn't a miracle. It was a spark that ignited old hatred. He whispered, "So, I'm the weapon and the target. Arya nodded slowly. And maybe the only chance we have left. Outside, the city's shields flared as enemy ships entered orbit. Liam watched from the command tower as Arya barked orders in her native tongue, her voice cutting through the chaos. She was fearless, moving like lightning between consoles, guiding fleets with precision. He had seen leaders before, but none like her. Fierce, noble, and burdened by the weight of command. When night fell, the first wave of enemy troops landed. The sound of energy blasts echoed through the canyons. Liam followed a squad into the lower districts to help repair damaged power nodes. The air smelled of smoke and ozone, the ground trembling with distant strikes. As he worked, a small alien child clung to his arm, frightened and crying. He picked her up gently and hid her behind a wall, whispering, "You'll be okay." The soldiers saw him and hesitated, confusion in their eyes. For the first time, they didn't see him as just a human. They saw someone willing to protect their own. When he returned to the citadel, Arya was waiting, her armor scorched from battle. "You disobeyed orders," she said sharply. "I was saving civilians," he replied. "If that's disobedience, fine." Her glare softened, only for a second. "You risked your life for strangers," she said quietly. "Why?" He shrugged. "Because that's what humans do." Later that night, in the council chamber, Arya argued with the generals. They wanted to break the bond, to hand the human over as a peace offering. Liam listened from the shadows, feeling the weight of their words. But Arya stood firm. "He has proven more loyalty than half our officers," she said. "And if the bond exists, it exists for a reason." Her father, the great General Varela, remained silent, his eyes studying Liam's reflection through the glass. When the meeting ended, Arya approached Liam outside. "The council doesn't trust you," she said. "Some believe you are the omen of ruin." He smirked. "Well, they're not entirely wrong." She sighed, shaking her head. "You joke too much for someone facing death." "It keeps me alive," he said. Her gaze lingered, softer now. "Tomorrow, the second wave comes, and we may not survive it." Before he could reply, a tremor shook the ground. The city's shields flickered. Alarms screamed again, but this time the blast came from inside the fortress. An explosion ripped through the lower hangars, fire lighting up the sky. "Sabotage." Arya's expression turned cold. "They've infiltrated the palace." Liam grabbed a fallen rifle, his voice steady. "Then let's show them what a human mistake can do right." Together, they ran toward the flames, side by side. For the first time, not as captive and commander, but as allies. In that chaos, the bond between them pulsed stronger. The mark on his hand burned with blue fire, and Arya felt it too, through mind and heart, through battle and trust. As the night swallowed Varela in fire and smoke, destiny moved quietly beneath the stars. The hidden war had begun, and somewhere in that storm, a human's courage was rewriting the laws of the galaxy. The palace burned beneath the twin moons of Varela. Smoke curled into the sky, painting the stars with ash. Liam ran beside Arya through shattered halls, the floor trembling with every explosion. Sirens screamed, metal groaned, and soldiers shouted orders in alien tongues. The once perfect citadel was now a war zone. "Enemy saboteurs in the inner ring," Arya shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos. Liam followed her through a corridor filled with broken glass and floating embers. They reached the defense chamber just as a squad of rebels breached the gate. Plasma bolts tore through the air, lighting the walls in blue and red flashes. Liam grabbed a fallen rifle, heavier than anything human-made, and fired instinctively. The recoil almost threw him back, but the shot hit true, dropping an armored attacker. Arya glanced at him, surprise flickering in her golden eyes. "Not bad for someone who mocked our laws," she said. He grinned between breaths. "Guess I'm learning your customs fast." They fought side by side, moving as if guided by something unseen. Every time she dodged, he covered her. Every time he faltered, she pulled him forward. The glowing mark on his hand pulsed brighter with every heartbeat. At first, he thought it was adrenaline, but soon the light spread through his veins like fire. Pain struck him suddenly, forcing him to his knees. "Liam!" Arya cried, running to him. Blue energy burst from his body, forming ripples in the air. The rebels stopped, terrified. Arya touched his shoulder, and the moment her skin met his, her body jolted with the same light. Their minds collided, a storm of memory and feeling. She saw through his eyes, Earth's skies, laughter, his mother's smile, the loneliness he never showed. And he saw her childhood, training under her father's shadow, the burden of command, the fear of never being enough. For a moment, there was no human, no alien, only two souls bound by the same longing. The mark between them blazed like a miniature sun, sending shockwaves that threw back the attackers. When the light faded, both fell to the ground, gasping. The corridor was silent, the rebels gone, vaporized by pure energy. Liam blinked, his voice weak. What just happened? Aria's hands trembled as she looked at her own arm, where faint blue veins glowed beneath her skin. Our bond, she whispered. It's awakened. You've linked your life with mine. He frowned, still catching his breath. That sounds complicated. It's more than that, she said softly. If one of us dies, the other will follow. The realization hit them both, heavy as gravity. Their destinies were now fused, bound by something beyond their control. And yet, neither felt fear, only a strange calm. Outside, the sounds of war grew louder, shaking the chamber walls. Arya stood, helping him up. You should rest. He shook his head. Not while your world burns. Together, they pushed toward the western towers where the last defense lines held. Liam improvised traps using energy cells and broken shields, his mind racing with ideas. Arya commanded troops with renewed fury, her voice carrying through the smoke. Wherever they went, the tide shifted. Some whispered that the human brought luck, others that he carried a curse. But to Arya, he had become something else, proof that courage didn't belong to one species. In the final assault of that night, the enemy unleashed plasma storms across the city. A massive explosion tore through the shield generators, and Arya was thrown into the open. Liam saw the blast before she did, sprinted without thinking, and shielded her with his own body. The energy wave engulfed them both. Everything turned white. When the light cleared, he lay motionless, his armor cracked, his breathing shallow. Arya dropped to her knees beside him, shouting his name. The mark on her arm glowed furiously, and she felt his heartbeat fading inside her chest. No, she whispered, pressing her hand over his heart. Don't you dare leave me, human. The bond answered, releasing another surge of light that wrapped around them both. Liam gasped as energy flooded back into his body, his wounds closing before her eyes. When he opened them again, Arya was crying silently. He smiled weakly. Guess I'm harder to kill than you thought. She looked away, wiping her tears quickly. You're reckless, but brave. As the fires dimmed across the horizon, the two stood side by side. The war wasn't over, but something inside them had changed forever. The bond had awakened. And for the first time, Arya realized this human wasn't her punishment. He was her destiny. The smoke cleared slowly over Varella's horizon. The once shining city now stood scarred but unbroken. Ships drifted through the quiet sky like silver ghosts, their lights dim after endless battle. Below, the wounded were carried from the ruins, and the banners of the Dominion fluttered weakly in the cold wind. Liam sat on the steps of the palace courtyard, his hands still trembling from the power that had saved them. He could feel the bond humming faintly beneath his skin, a reminder that his life was now tied to Arya's. Every heartbeat echoed between them, soft and steady. Arya stood nearby, overlooking the sunrise with her father, the great General Varela. The old warrior's armor was scorched, his face hardened by grief and pride. He had seen empires rise and fall, but never imagined the savior of his world would be human. You risked everything for her, the general said, his deep voice breaking the silence. Liam nodded slowly. I didn't have time to think about it. The general studied him with sharp eyes. Few men act without thinking and still survive. He stepped closer. The bond between you is rare, ancient, even among our kind. It cannot be broken, not by command, not by will. Liam glanced at Arya, who met his gaze quietly. Their connection pulsed again, wordless but strong. The general looked between them, then exhaled heavily. Perhaps fate chose better than I would have, he said. And then, to Liam's shock, the old warrior bowed his head slightly. No one had ever seen a Varela general bow to a human. The soldiers around them froze, disbelief written on their faces. Arya turned toward Liam, her expression softer than it had ever been. When this began, I wanted to hate you, she admitted. I saw you as a mockery of our laws, a joke sent by the stars. Liam smiled faintly. You weren't exactly my dream date either. She laughed, the first true laugh he had heard from her, light and almost human. But you fought when others fled, she continued, and you made me believe again. The council soon gathered in the grand hall, the air heavy with judgment and tradition. Alien nobles in shimmering robes whispered as Liam entered, escorted by Arya herself. Some glared, others watched with cautious curiosity. The general raised his hand for silence. The human has fought, bled, and bound his soul to our heir, he said. He has earned the right of kinship by deed, not by blood. A ripple of shock passed through the chamber. The oldest counselor spoke. You mean to make him part of House Varela? The general's tone was final. Yes, by law and by the bond already sealed. Arya stepped forward, holding out a ceremonial crest glowing with blue light. Liam hesitated, his hands shaking slightly. This is our way, she said softly. Once you accept, there is no turning back. He met her eyes, smiled gently, and took the crest. A beam of energy connected them for a heartbeat, sealing the ritual. When it faded, the mark on his hand had changed. Two intertwined symbols, human and alien, glowing as one. The hall erupted in mixed voices, disbelief, applause, protest, and awe. But above all, there was silence when Arya spoke again. Liam Carter of Earth, she said, her voice steady. By bond and by trial, you are now of House Varela. The general raised his blade in salute, the gesture of honor. And the crowd, slowly, reluctantly, began to bow. Later, as the suns dipped low and the city lights returned, Arya and Liam stood on the same balcony where it all began. The wind carried faint music from the recovery camps, a melody of hope after destruction. Arya looked at him, her golden eyes glowing in the fading light. So, she said quietly, you are now the general's son-in-law. He chuckled. Guess I should stop making jokes about alien weddings now. She smiled. Maybe keep one or two, it suits you. They stood in silence for a while, watching the stars return. The galaxy beyond seemed vast and peaceful for the first time. Liam spoke softly. Do you think they'll ever accept a human among them? Arya turned toward him, her voice warm. They already have, because you didn't just survive. You changed us. He reached out, taking her hand as the twin moons rose high. Two worlds, two hearts, bound forever by destiny and defiance. The galaxy would remember the tale of the man who laughed at fate and became legend. The human who mocked the marriage draft and ended up marrying the stars themselves.